Welcome to the Eskimo experience. Battery level 120%, firing mode, frosty.
Dr. James checking in for the Eski couch. I've got brother Timmy with me as always. Brother Kaizer's come in from his lockdown. The travel bubble is still burst for New Zealand, and Connor couldn't even make it into a Zoom. That's how bad things have got over there. So, how are we, boys?
Good, man. I'm great over this end.
Yeah,
I'm always good, even when I'm bad.
You've got to be good at it. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
So, so there hasn't been much paintball to talk about. There hasn't not much paintball on the horizon except for one event coming up pretty soon. So
yeah, there's not a lot going on. It's like it's now speculation as to what's going on with the rest of the season for like multiple states. I know obviously we're very lucky over here in WA. We've got our 1v1 coming up Sunday week. That's all looking pretty money. I think that's almost sold out. Which is nice. Great. Maybe one or two slots left. I know there's a few people sort of dancing around that. It's been the one unfortunate thing with the demise of gel ball over here is they can't do that. The positive out of it, though, is the amount of them that are looking to jump over and play paintball or used to play paintball and are coming back to it. So that's been a big bonus. And yeah, obviously I'm going to kick on with our next round of NXL over here. Yep. Which was going to be the week before sevens, but now it's a matter of waiting for Uncle Mike to make the call.
You might be able to pick any date you want now, mate. There might not be many competing events happening. So
no, I've set my dates. I'm going to stick by them as much as I can. I just screw around and change the last one. I'm not doing that again if I can avoid it.
Yeah. It's certain headaches involved with changing dates, isn't there? So a little bit happening down south in a couple of weeks too, Kaizer. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. 1st of August, the 3-man out at Sniper's Den. Let's see if 2 men in a removal truck haven't ruined the 3-man paintball field. Bastards.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be a good little event.
Forward. We'll see.
Yeah. Would be good to have a little 3-man down there. So it'd be a bit of fun.
It'd be good to see a 3-man get up around. Like I know there's been a few obviously in New South Wales. We haven't done one over here in forever, but generally I'll leave them to Bubba to run them out at his field, which I think is getting close to being complete. He's got a lovely AstroTurf field he's been working on for forever and a day. But he used to run them down at the Battlefield field.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I miss being able to play those.
Yeah, they're fun. Matty ran a cool one in, I think it was November when the lockdown ended. I look at the photos, I'm a fat bastard. Man, I think I was 108 or 112 kilos when the lockdown ended.
Jesus.
Shit.
Back down to 96.
Not as much jiggle.
Mate, there was some jiggle in the wiggle, bro. Yeah. I got a gym in my backyard, in my garage, and by the end of the lockdown, I was so demotivated, I wasn't even walking into it.
See, that's the thing. Like, we've had lockdown here for 3 weeks, and I've been the most consistent the last 3 weeks than I have been, since my surgery. I've sort of been dabbling a bit since my surgery, but once I got the all clear, the last 3 weeks, I've just been consistent, which is good.
Yeah.
Your surgery's probably helped you in that respect because you were cut off before.
Yeah. And that was like
just time that breaks you, Jonesy.
What's that?
At the start, I was still a weapon. I was training. All I was doing was walking outside. I've got a big screen out there. Put on Netflix or put on my music. I've got a good stereo system out there.
Yep.
Stare at my Harley. I've got a cable machine, a bench press, a squat rack, a whole. I just go out there and rock, and then just after 8 months, I was getting up at whatever o'clock, eating shit, watching Netflix all day, riding on my Harley, get whiskey, come back, drink the whiskey, eat shit.
I do want to clarify, like I have been watching Netflix all day and I have been eating pretty shit, but I am getting up at 5:30 and going outside and then I'm doing a session in the afternoon.
Good.
My goal is for my belly to be smaller than my missus's, and I'm kind of winning that now because hers keeps growing. So
it's a good tactic.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good way of making sure of it.
Consequences to it though, Jonesy.
What's that?
It's a great tactic, but with serious consequences.
Yes, life lasting.
I thought I'd put that before someone runs down the stairs. And
it's going to kill me, but when she goes on that diet and loses 6 pounds straight away. So
yeah, it's a quick one. It's one of those 24-hour fad things.
Yeah. Like that.
More effective bulimia.
Yeah. Honorary host is in. So
yeah, the not so mighty Thor.
Oh, what a boss. Diggy. Where's boy? Come on, boy.
Man, your dog's going to think there's fast food on the menu soon.
Mine.
No, Timmy's. See Tiggy come down and be like, nuggets.
Oh, I'm a little slow.
No, this guy's a lover, not a fighter, that's for sure.
I did see something today that I really rate, and I think it's something we need to do over here. The NXL put up dates for their ref clinics, which I think
they hold them quite often, James.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, and I think it's something, I was thinking about it today when I saw that, and that's something we sort of lack in paintball in Australia to legitimize it. Everyone says they want paintball to be classed as a sport and all this and that, and they want it to be all, proper. But there's a certain element that take it serious and no one else really does. And I think that, doing that sort of stuff will legitimize things as a sport. That if we have the officials actually doing some training and so forth and taking it serious too. Yeah. And that was, back in the day when I stopped playing footy, I still wanted to be involved. So I did like the refs, like I used to referee league and so forth. And I think that's, I think it.
And so forth.
What's that?
What was the so forth?
Oh, and touch judge too.
Great comeback, Jonesy.
You like that? You should have seen how much they judged my touching. So, but that was, that was a good avenue for me when I got out of playing, and it was proper legit. Like you had to do a course, and you had meetings, and they went over rules and that sort of stuff. And I think that's something that we had the instance where we got people that are reffing the pro division that are their second or third tournament they've ever reffed or so forth, or stuff like that, and it makes it hard that you got the best level of play in Australia being refereed by people that
especially when you've got some of those you've got some of those players that make it their job to make sure they know every in and out of every rule, 100%. Which realistically you should know at least the majority of them. Maybe not the entire in and outs, but when you'll have some players just trying to play mind games with refs. You'll have some players having a legitimate argument that know that, and I don't mean this in a verbal argument way, but just having a legitimate stance going, no, hang on, this means X, Y, and Z, not A, B, and C. I know we've got over here a couple of my normal refs, ex-players, that, again, wanted to be involved, but couldn't because of life, buying houses, wives, whatever else. So that was the way they could be involved. They were able to step over and transition into it. We don't have a specific clinic as such. We've been lucky in the past. We've had Sammy over here that's been able to sort of guide new refs. And we're also lucky with the way that the WA community is, that everyone's willing to work with the refs to help them out, sort of thing. And we don't have a lot of people pushing boundaries when they play, which is hugely beneficial. I think that really helps the refs out there, because, as I said, I had an event the other week where I had 4 refs. Admittedly, those 4 refs were all experienced. That sort of saved their ass. But yeah, the idea of legitimizing and running clinics and all that sort of thing is fantastic. The hard thing is, though, is just getting those people that want to ref. I think for paintball, it's that you've got to be willing to go and get shot more than what you did as a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, and pop a fair bit of shit.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's a huge thing, Kai. It's like
I'm bad. I'm guilty.
Yeah, like everyone does. Everyone does, and I think that comes back to, paintball is a case of you turn up to the field, you pay your rego, you play the tournament.
Yeah.
You join a club, and like the Eskimos, we're pretty lucky. We've got a set of rules for the Eskimos, and if you're an Eskimo and you don't know that, look it up. It's on the page. There are rules for the club, so you know what expectations are, and obviously important ones are on there twice. Like don't be a dickhead. So, and that's stuff that we sort of
I thought
hang
that
our
was
head
worded
on
slightly better as just don't be a cunt.
Yeah,
Don't be a cunt. And,
we've got kids now on the team, so we can't have that because the parents have to read it.
So
we
can leave it in context.
We could.
You can be a good cunt. You can't be a bad cunt.
Exactly. Don't be a shit cunt.
And definitely don't be a shit cunt.
But I think having that sort of code of conduct is important, and like we do it as a club, but I think that needs to be there as more of a sport level, and
yes.
that's and that comes back to any legitimized sport has what they call a code of conduct for players.
Funnily enough, most of that sort of stuff is in our rules, like depending on your rule set. So if we use, I'm going to prefer something here. I don't read the Super Sevens rules. I know they're different from the NXL rules. They're what I know.
Yep.
I know in there, there is code of conduct. There is about arguing referees, being aggressive towards players, other players and referees, all that sort of stuff. There is room there to enforce it. Exactly. Admittedly, sometimes it gets enforced too harshly. Sometimes it doesn't get enforced enough.
That's the point I sort of think of. Like it is there, but you have referees that don't know the ins and outs of it and don't know their ability to enforce stuff. Or you've got they don't back themselves enough because they don't have the experience to have that confrontation with a player that's done the wrong thing. They're just like, oh, it's a penalty, it's done, and it's not. There needs to be that legitimization. So that's my little.
It's a fair thing going forward. It's one of the best things the NXL in the States do.
Yeah.
Admittedly, they, like you said, they have a big player pool to pull from or population to pull from in that respect, which I think allows them to do those sorts of things. Doesn't stop us trying it. I encourage anyone over here in WA, at least, if you're not able to play an event, like even if it's just like you normally are playing, but you're not able to play that event, give me a shout. If I've got room for you, I'll definitely take you on as a ref because it will make you a better player.
100%.
It sucks to do it, but you learn so much doing it because you're not watching games, you're watching a zone, and it just gives you that appreciation of what a good ref does. It also means if you screw someone over on the field and you go back out to play the next time, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah.
So it keeps you legit as well. I mean, Kai, you'd remember this back in the day. Everyone used to have like a pro team would ref each event, and it worked. It didn't work. It depended.
It did because of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it was that whole "don't screw me, I won't screw you" sort of deal.
There was always an agreement with someone.
Yeah. But then inevitably, as we find, gentlemen's agreements, all that sort of stuff, they're great on, like, in theory, but you can't.
If everyone's being a gentleman.
Yes, exactly. Like, this is where, like, your rule sets, your refs, and
if you're making gentlemen's agreements, you're not a fucking gentleman.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
Bastard, and you're hooking each other up.
Yeah. So this comes down to, like, confusion in terms of leading into events. I mean, Kai, I know you guys have had dramas this year in terms of locally of we're playing finals, we're not playing finals, whatever. And I know logistics comes into that with the length of the day and all that sort of stuff. That has a huge impact on it. But it's one of those where you kind of got to stick by a thing. That's what it's going to be, and we've just got to do it.
Yeah, but I was about to make I'm going to make a confession about that. That was a shit thing that we did. That was a tit for tat thing. Hustle had done it to us last year.
Yeah.
And we just were like,
you had your opportunity. Yeah.
And got them back. And
right. Can I blame you at all?
Yeah, but and it wasn't a man's way to win a tournament. And I love Butchie. And you know, Max is Max.
Yep.
You know, like, but I love those fuckers. And but fuck them, it was war. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, look, and put it this way. But if that hadn't happened last year, you wouldn't have had the tit for tat this year.
And
so look, that's where I get.
I rang Butchie during the week later, and I rang him and I reached out to him and I said, dude, sorry. And he goes, we did that to you last year, right? And I go, yeah, that's why we did it. And he goes, I forgot that at the time. He goes, that's why I was so fucking angry. He goes, but then one of the boys told me later that we did that to you guys last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that's because we'd shot X amount of paint and we just didn't want to fucking spend more money playing finals. So we were like, fuck you guys. Like, we're out. We've spent this much. We're taking it. And
yeah.
I was like, well, this time we were like, fuck you guys. Like, okay, we need to approach Jill and say that this can never happen agagen.
Well, that's the thing. It shouldn't be an option.
Yes,
absolutely, and it's not. I don't know how we got away with it. The pair of us.
Mate, it's happened. It happened at NXL Canberra in the day too.
Well, yeah. Well, look, Butchie and I joined heads, and we approached Jill, and they'd already come up with the conclusion anyway that W2, like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, look, a big part of it, whenever anything like that goes down, generally a ref will only consider it is if it's logistically impacting on the day. Like, if it's getting late in the day and you're losing light.
Tim, I think we played 9 matches.
Yeah.
With, let's say 5 points in each. So we played 45, 50 points each over the day.
Yeah.
That's a long ass day just on prelims.
And everyone, to be truthful, everyone was spent.
Yeah.
And
that's why I say that's where, whether it's done as a committee, whether it's done as like you're following pretty much what's written in a rule book or whatever, you just need to set your guidelines at the beginning of your season, because it has to be over a season, and you go, right, we're aiming to play finals, but if we're this late in the day, we're only going to play top 2. But if you're going to do that and put the maybes in there, you just go, right, we're just going to play top 2 final, or we're going to go no finals. We're just going to play round robin.
And we're calling it now. Yeah.
How did you end up doing 9 prelims? Was that the amount of teams, or you played everyone twice, or what was the go?
Played everyone twice, and then we played the final. I think we played 9 matches.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. See that I know, at least from my point as an organizer, what I would have done in that situation is, great, everyone wants to play as much paintball as possible. I applaud that as much as I can. But when it comes to an event, everyone plays everyone once. We'll take top 2 finals. That's why I do an open and a division 2 over here. That way we still get an extra 2 games in.
Tim, I'm pretty sure they had full intentions of playing finals, but
they would have done. I understand.
Dixie or someone on our team had an elephant's memory, because I can't remember what happened last Tuesday.
Yeah.
But they said fucking Hustle fucked us last year when we played a long day and it was 5 o'clock or some shit already, and went and said, we don't want to play finals. Let's go fucking do that to them. And I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Because I'm down for revenge all day. I'm counting Monte Cristo. I'm down with that. But
vendetta.
But also I'm an Aussie guy. I don't like kicking a mate in the balls.
Yeah.
But count Monte Cristo, motherfucker.
You guys still do split deck down there too, don't you?
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
No.
That would, yeah.
But it's not uncommon.
Not uncommon. That's it.
Yeah.
Not uncommon.
Yeah. All good.
I think if you're not running a webcast, like split deck has its benefits.
Oh, 100%.
And again, it comes straight into a logistics standpoint. We did it for the 2 seasons in Europe. It was weird to get used to. Once you're used to it, it was like, cool. All right, we understand this. And sometimes you actually got a decent break out of it.
Yeah, that's a plus side of it. That sometimes you
the
can
downer
get
is you lose motivate. You can lose momentum. Big
cool down. Yep. Cops Harbour always do a split deck.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it. I got used to it. And I get that, not running a split deck on a webcast is great for spectators that don't necessarily watch paintball all the time.
Yeah.
And I do get that. And, for someone who's not used to it and they're like, well, how come this team's coming out now? Where's the other guys?
What's going on? You need to be constantly explaining and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah. So I do see the benefits of singles. But 9 matches in a day.
Yeah.
That's hectic, man.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where you compare it to the Super Sevens. Like, it's the same number of teams. So 9 matches in a day. Okay. That would be for 10 teams. I know, Kai, you guys played through twice.
Yep.
But that's played, like, those prelims are played over 3 days.
Yep.
Admittedly, they should be played over 2 days and finals, but there's also logistics reasons behind 3 days.
Yep.
Yeah, look, it's a hard day. I'm fit. I'm a PT. A lot of the blokes are really cooked by the end of those 8 matches and genuinely didn't want to play finals.
Fuck, yeah. Some of them
happened to be great that Dixie remembered to be a prick.
Yeah.
A couple of us, I would have gone either way. But also, Count Monte Cristo, motherfucker.
In fairness, for some people, 5 games in a day would kill them.
Yeah.
Look, it was. No, it's because I'm off my tree. I must have said. I said it was. We played 9, so it wasn't 8 plus a final because we didn't play the final. That's the point of the discussion, isn't it? So
how's that Scotch run going?
Yeah.
I don't know how it got to 9 games. Don't ask me to do the math.
You played a lot of games in a single day.
There's a lot of
played a lot of paintball.
Yeah.
Tiger was there.
Yes.
True story.
Chief mascot.
Yeah, Tiger was there.
But it still comes back to what you were saying, Jonesy, in terms of like a code of conduct, a set that then flows into your set of rules. That then flows into your refs and who's reffing for you and all that sort of stuff. And that consistency, how important that is.
Like they do it at Excel. You know that. You've seen it.
Yeah.
The pro refs are pro refs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's...
I think, to get things... I think that's the first step of getting things legitimized and recognized as a sport is there has to be that sort of standard set that, these are the pro refs. This is an expectation. This is an interpretation. This is how you interpret this rule. Not that, this ref, I know if this happens, this ref is going to call that sweep, but the ref at the other end is going to call that it's not so sweet. There has to
be absolute integrity and consistency.
Yeah.
The unfortunate... Okay, so this leads us down a very...
that's huge.
And I've had this conversation probably with both you guys at separate points. Like I've had this conversation definitely with Sammy on multiple occasions. And this comes down to rule sets and what rules you follow and all that sort of stuff. And then why are your rules then varied from the original? And look, when the WPBO thing happened a few years back.
Yep.
And the idea was there was a single set of rules for the entire world.
Yep.
The concept behind it was absolutely awesome. The trouble was the execution of it was terrible.
Yep.
Because it didn't take into consideration local impacts. So whether it be economic for like how many games and all that sort of stuff, the format. But the basics of the rules, you could take 90% of them and leave them exactly that. And that's why I know, Kai, it's a big reason the NXL here in Australia, that be WA, Victoria, all the rest, we follow the NXL rules. Not the NXL Pro rules, because the NXL Pro for the actual professionals is set up for a webcast as well. So there are a few little bends in there that are intended for that. And I mention this because I know there's some fuckery over in Victoria in the background about, oh, the pros don't have this happen to them and whatnot. But the actual NXL rules are effectively that WPBO thing for the world these days.
Yep.
There is a variation between Europe and the US in terms of how harshly things are penalized. Generally, they're harsher in Europe than what they are in the US.
Well,
I think the US is played probably, in my opinion, probably more in the spirit of the sport, where it's like, let the game play. And you don't, a ref really only interjects when they've just got to balance the scales, where someone's, whether it be intentionally, unintentionally, whatever, the penalty's there not as a screw you, it's just a balance out it's balancing out the scales. But then that becomes important across the board. Like if we want that for Australia, for example, we would need a set of rules for Australia. And that would mean me over here, Victoria, the Super Sevens, the Queensland Cup, the not the Sapphire, sorry,
Rush.
Coffs, Rush. Everyone should be running the exact same set of rules.
Yeah.
But then to design those, you would need committees. Yeah, we would need a lot more sit-down groundwork, and then there needs to be some thought process behind why you're altering away from the professional leagues in the world.
Yep.
If there's legitimate reasoning behind it, fine. Like I think you can have some room for movement there in terms of format, like your timing in games and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of your basic rules of what's a penalty, what does it denote, what's your code of conduct, which is, I think, is the biggest and most important thing.
Yep.
These are the most important things. They need to be universal, and they aren't too dissimilar across, like say the NXL here in WA and the Super Sevens. There are some differences in terms of a ref's powers.
Yeah.
There are some benefits and negatives on both sides of those.
And talking to Chad when he's out here, the US refs, and he says it beautifully, like the refs in the US ref proactively. So if they see a hit, they'll call you out. The refs at Super Sevens ref reactively. So they'll see the hit, they'll watch you with the hit, and then when you make a move and do something, they'll throw a penalty.
Throw the penalty. Yes.
Exactly. And that's, I think that's something that, in the spirit of the game, a referee should be refereeing the game, not looking for a reason to penalise a player.
Yeah, look, I've had this discussion, again, I've said this already, but this has been my point of view is exactly that. And majority of refs you actually talk to, at least one-on-one, do usually agree that, ideally they would call a hit as soon as they see it.
Yep.
Problem is if you're standing behind a player, that comes down to field positioning for the referee. They need to be in front of the player to go, hey, you're hit, and to be able to, so the player doesn't necessarily hear them, but they can see them.
Yep.
That has a huge impact on it.
That comes down to training too. Like a referee standing in the middle of no man's land behind a player is like, what are they doing reffing there? They're not going to see the hit on their back.
Look, for some people, it's a matter of like they are watching the game.
Yeah.
And I mean the game as a whole, not just a zone.
Not that zone, yeah.
Yeah, I think the best reffing's done when it's done as a zone.
Yeah.
And that's just from my own experience as a ref. You can't have vision for the entire field, especially when you got bunkers blocking out your vision of half of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you need, if you have a set zone, you watch your zone.
That's where you're at.
You communicate with your other refs.
There's some pretty good reffing over in a World Cup when I won this point for Envious. Because
you liked the sound of that, didn't you?
Yeah, I won this point for Envious when I got shot so many times that the ref gave a penalty at them for shooting me so many times. It was overshooting. And one of the Simpsons ran through and shot everyone and won the game. But it was because I opened it up for them.
Yeah. you took more than one for the team.
That was the point I won for Envious.
Now, was it Ben or Carl?
I can't remember.
Dorito side or snake side, mate?
Don't
Can't
ask.
remember that either.
Well, Jonesy, if you weren't there,
the bell was ringing there, Jonesy.
it's like Woodstock, mate. If you remember it, you weren't there.
You weren't there. That's it. And it was 98% humidity, right?
It actually was.
Yeah, I was going to say Florida definitely would have been.
Yeah, we had snorkels. They were HK snorkels, so they only worked half the time. Love you guys.
Oh, that was magic. Priceless.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think as a whole, as a community, at least at the higher level in terms of the pro division or within the organisers that I speak to or representatives like Kai and then yourself with the major clubs, Jonesy, it's I think everyone's sort of wanting to head in that direction.
Yep.
I don't know what extra steps we need to take to put extra in place, because unfortunately we are in a situation where everyone's looking to feather their own nest or look after their own interests, which is fair. Like, especially in Australia, it's entirely business. And so I'd expect Mike and John to look after themselves 100%. And I do not fault them or condemn them for any of that. It's the same with Couchy with his interests with the NXL. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you do. Like, everyone's going to have their own self-interests and whatnot. And sometimes that goes down as far as the rules. And your reffing crews and all that sort of fun stuff. But I think in the spirit of things, everyone wants to head in the same sort of direction. It's
100%.
I think realistically, a lot of it comes back to the players. Like we as players, take the organising side of it out of it, need to probably lean more into that code of conduct and conduct ourselves as best as possible. Like, when there's prizes on the line and whatnot, people will push and bend and do whatever. But then you've got to try and rise yourself above that and do it as, I hate saying honourably as you can, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And it's, hand on your heart, do the best you can. Yeah. To do it the right way, I think it's a big thing, but it's the same thing. It does come down to people. So,
and that's a big thing to remember about the refs as well. They are just people. Like, they will make cock-ups. They'll probably 100%. Make a lot of cock-ups. But you might not have realised what they were looking at the time.
Yep.
So, again, though, for the refs, and I've done it enough to be able to speak as a ref, you got to be willing to accept that you've got to do the job as best you can and as consistently as you can for everyone. I know a lot of people are friends with, like, everyone's friends with everyone else, like whether you're a ref or a player. But you need to take...
You can't just slip solids. You can't.
No, you need to keep it consistent across the board.
Yep.
And even if if you go back and you look back at an event, like, I'd hope refs go back and look back at an event, like a player goes back and looks at an event and goes, oh shit, I cocked that bit up here, or I did that.
Yep.
If you look back at it and you went, shit, I let that slip for Timmy, or shit, I let that slip for Kai or Jonesy or whatever, I shouldn't have done. Don't let it happen again, sort of thing, and learn and grow from it. But then that's why, like I say, it's on players predominantly, because we're the ones playing the game. But then it's also on refs to hold that integrity and keep that consistency across the board.
I think, like the reality of it, like the refs that ref Super Sevens, they ref probably, 4 events a year, maybe 5. I think that comes down to, like, and I'll bring it back, I think there needs to be, some sort of training that they do themselves, and I have no doubt that the boys sit around and they have a couple of cans and they discuss what happened and what this and that, and I get that. But sitting around and talking about it isn't the same as being on the field, putting it into action. Like, we can sit around and talk about laning and that, but if you're not out there practicing, you're not going to get that instant reaction. I know what to do in this situation. So I think the NXL do it right in the US with their ref training. I think it's something that they should adopt over here to better the sport, for it to grow. if everyone's bitching and moaning about the refs all the time, everything's going to get stagnant, you know, and that's the way it is. So,
oh, look, it leads to fractures. Like obviously we had the famous one of Refs Inc. that used to do the sevens, and there was a big fracture there between players and organisers and the refs themselves, and it just went and split. And there were positives out of that. There were some negatives out of that. And we where we're at today, ultimately, I think it's led to more refs coming on board, which is a positive thing, and that's one of the positives. It also curtailed a few extravagance from a reffing standpoint, but at the flip side, you also lost some of the best refs we've got in the country. You don't get. I don't personally don't believe you get every single one of our better refs in this country at
one
a single event.
Yeah, I'll agree there. So
I know a lot of them. Like I've got a lot of time for the majority of Refs Inc. I don't care what their organisation's called as such, but just them as individuals and how they go about and treat their job quite seriously. Obviously, I'm good mates with Sammy, so I'll speak about him. But there's guys like BB, Buster. Yeah, there's a good crew amongst them. There are some, though, still amongst them that I think are probably a bit too long in the tooth or apply their own personal opinions to things more so than what they should. I'm not going to throw anyone on the bus, but I feel the same thing about some of the sevens refs.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I don't like any of them as people. Like they're all, I think anyone that steps out there deserves your respect and all the rest, but
I think there's putting your own spin on a tournament rather than letting the tournament play is two different things too. So
yeah, it comes back to at least Chad hit the nail on the head. Proactive reffing is the best, and from that it comes back to ref training is a big part of that. So whether you are intending to ref or are a player and you're thinking about, oh shit, I can't play this event, go to a training, jump out there and go, hey guys, I'll start and stop the games, and just call people out when you see a hit. But think about how you want to be reffed and make sure they can see you. Like let the other player see you.
Actually,
and then when you are reffing, remember the penalty is not to screw another player. The penalty is there just to balance the scales. You only involve yourself if you have to.
Yep.
Best refs have ref not heard.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter the sport, what the sport is.
The least impact they can have on the game, the better. You know, whether it's positive or negative, the least impact they can have is what you want. So all good. Anything else we want to touch on?
We could touch on the current state of affairs in the American pro circles with the Astra group going on with their invitational and the main NXL deciding to do an open division
on the same
at their divisional. Look, there's some. I don't know enough about it to talk about it tonight. It'd be a great topic for next week. But there is definitely some fuckery about. And for those that are intrigued about it,
follow the Pro
Paintball. Yeah, they've been the best. Pro Paintball themselves have been the best news source. Pro Paintball Troll has been the best entertainment.
Yeah.
Pro Paintball Troll follows me. Do you know how stoked I was when I jumped on my Insta, like whenever it was? Pro Paintball Troll follows you. I was like, oh, yeah.
You better up your content quality then, mate.
Oh, mate. That guy's my idol. So funny.
But yeah, there's some interesting moves afoot over in the US. So that's going to be something worth discussing once we know a bit more. And I think we're going to know more in the next week.
I don't know if you guys follow Damien Ryan, but
Bunker Monkey.
Yeah,
Damien's an old friend of mine, and he's
drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah, he's divvying out the Kool-Aid. He's
100%.
He's supplying the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Look, Damien's speaking a lot of truths at the moment. I think Damien's got a lot of butt hurt at the moment as well. I think
he's had a lot of butt hurt for about 18 months, 2 years now.
Yeah,
we're War Eagles. Damien is a brother to me. I've been done, and
he's a good dude.
Well,
he really is.
Could talk things with Damien that we can never ever speak of.
What happened in Langkawi stays in Langkawi.
Bro to me.
Hey, it's only gay if you push back.
On that note, we will do a little bit of research. We'll have a conversation next week about the Open and how Kai was wide open.
Hang on. I pity anyone that gets in any situation, any woman that gets in that situation with Damien. They don't call him baby arm for nothing. He's a freak. There'd be no pushing back, Tim. I'd be dead.
That's my kidney.
Got to clear that up.
Yeah. Very good.
Wait to finish this one.
Yeah, we'll end that there about Kaizer talking about Damien Ryan's beer can, but and we'll have a conversation next week because I don't think there's going to be many events to talk about. So we'll
have a preview. We'll have a preview for a 1v1, but that'll be about it, I think.
Yeah. So which will be good. So I assume you'll have a layout for us next week, Timmy. All excited?
No, actually, we randomly make them up on the Saturday before
blind
we're setting up.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. 1v1s are blind, mainly because, well, not because I'm blind, but mainly because we don't know what we're doing until we roll up.
You're only half blind, brother.
Yes, so. Exactly. So we just go in and we literally eyeball the field and figure it out.
Mate, I love a blind layout. I think there needs
Before
to
we
be
go,
more of it.
Before we go, I just want to do a massive shout out to Hot Shots, to Stephen Mel, who took Lara and I out for dinner to the Rice Queen in Fitzroy the other day and loaded us up with cocktails and a seriously massive feed. Not many paintball sponsors take you out for dinner and just lay a massive spread on. Thanks, Hot Shots. That was unreal. Yeah.
Mint. Very good. Well done to those guys.
Yeah.
There needs to be more of that, more looking after the people that do the right thing. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, very
Me
cool.
and the wife and even Axel. We went to a swanky place in a swanky suburb.
Hope he had mocktails.
Mate, I didn't.
No, I hope he did. Hope Axel did.
Someone had to be designated, right?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah. That's why you called him Axel. He's like the third wheel.
Who?
Tiny.
Like he's out of a Tommy Hilfiger ad because his fucking mother.
Oh, jeez. All right, we will leave it there on that note. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Do us a favor, share it round if you like what we're doing. Give us a review if you can, and share the love for us. Thanks for your time, Timmy, Kaizer. Appreciate you, man. And we'll see you boys next week.
This week as well.
Yep, all good. All right, done.
Powering off.